Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Patmore, Head of the Strategic University Research Programme at BT Group. And this afternoon I'm going to talk to you about the changing face of BT. You can see from this slide that back in 1912 we were post office telephones. At one point we had around 250,000 people working across the UK, and we were a monopoly supplier. That's all changed. Today we have 110,000 people, and around a third of those are based outside of the UK in 50 countries. And the company delivers services to 170 countries across the globe. In 2002, Ben Verwaayen joined the company as Chief Executive Officer. Very quickly, he saw that we needed to launch a new and quite radical service. And just a few months after his appointment in April 2002, he announced the launch of direct access broadband. You'll know it today as BT Broadband. With the launch of this new service, we moved from being a fast follower to market leader. For a large company, it's not always the right position to be. Sometimes watching what others do and then following them quickly into the marketplace with your own offering can be the right thing to do. But in the case of broadband, Ben had decided that we needed to set the benchmark for new services. And you can see from the graph on the screen there that we've grown in 2002 with just a few customers taking up the service, to the point today where there are more than 10 million connections, wholesale and retail. A truly amazing growth across this new market. On this next slide, you can see that we've had to move from a deep understanding and selling of technology to selling services. And that's been a major change for the company. We have a long history of a very deep understanding of technologies in the communications space. But that wasn't good enough. We need to understand what's happening in society and the cultural changes that are taking place. We need to understand what customers need. And that's about designing new services that fit those needs. But we also need to develop trust with our customers. They need to look at the services that we're designing, developing and deploying and think that these are designed for them. And through that, we can develop a much higher level of trust. But to understand what's behind building trust, how we can build trust, and also, of course, how you can lose trust, we need to look at it from two different aspects. At the technical level, we work with people like David Clarke, and you can see one of his key papers there, Trust in Application Design. But we also work with people like Simon Blackburn at Cambridge, who's a philosopher, and has looked at the big picture of trust in society, how trust is developed in society, and through that, how businesses can develop a much higher level of trust from their customers. All that would be great as long as we can develop services quickly. The world is changing very rapidly today. The internet and broadband have introduced new services that happen quickly and, of course, can disappear quickly. The best way we've found to develop new services that work well for our customers and do focus on their needs, of course, is to involve customers in that development. And we've moved from the traditional waterfall method of service and application development through to what we call the agile inclusive design model. And you can see on the right side of the screen there a completely new way of thinking about service design. So even at the very front end, when we've got this scenario-based user needs analysis, we involve customers at that point. So even before we start to build anything, we're talking to customers about what they need. And this is this needs analysis. From that, we develop requirements and specifications, and then we go into this loop where we produce prototypes, we test them with users, we evolve the prototype, we retest again. All the time, there's this constant evolution of the service. So by the time it hits the marketplace, it's been well tested, well designed. But even then, through the operations and maintenance area, we bring back in feedback and we continue to evolve services. So continue to think about customer needs, to think about what best suits the customers. We also need to involve this area we call disruption. Because services are designed and deployed very quickly, if we're first to the marketplace, then others will come in behind us. And we need to think about how that disruption affects our own services. So as we move from the takeoff period to a mature period, others could well come in and eat our lunch. So what we've got to make sure is, as the services that we deploy become mature, we have other services that will come in and enhance those services, or even in some cases, take over from those services. Disruption is with us. We need to embrace it. Then, of course, there's the big issues. How do we deal with the really big problems that face us in the future? What are we going to do with broadband services in the future? So one of the things we've done here is to work with a whole number of other companies. You can see on the left of the slide this vision of personal broadband group. So we brought together the big telecoms companies around the world, and together we worked on what will broadband look like in the future. But the other aspect of delivering services to customers is the network, the architecture. So we've also got a group, again, big group of companies, the major players in the area, looking at what do advanced optical architectures look like? How are we going to use optical fiber in our networks? So from the service point of view, working with lots of key companies, but also from the architecture point of view, how do we design architectures for the future? And the key to this is working with the very best people. Now, I've just put a smattering of just a few of the people we're currently working with. So from the previous slides, you can see David Clark, Simon Blackburn, Rebecca Henderson, Sharon Gillette, Rajiv Ram, but also people like Philip Stiles at the Judge Business School. And Philip is a lecturer in corporate governance. He helps us think about leadership, culture, people, and of course having the right leadership, understanding cultural and societal change, understanding what people need, and building all that into how we think about the company going forward. So what does that lead to? It's about designing services not only for now, but for the future. We've learned services must be intuitive to use. They must adapt to our personal needs. And they must be suitable not only for individual customers, but of course for businesses. We must help both our customers and businesses, individual customers and businesses, in what they want to do. We must understand where they're going with their lives or with their businesses and embrace that change that they want to do with our services. And there's a lovely little line at the bottom there. We mustn't limit human possibilities. We mustn't bolt people into something which doesn't allow them to grow. We must grow with them. Here's a little summary with a couple of graphics from an early BT tower image where it was called the Post Office Tower, through to, of course, the image of the BT Tower today. So the changing face of BT, it's about new leadership, realising that fast second is not always the right strategy. Being a market lead in some areas can be absolutely the right thing to do. It's about selling services, not just technology. Some companies want to buy technology, and that's fine. But the vast majority of our customers, both individuals and businesses, want services. Understanding trust and building trust with our customers. Building high levels of trust will lead to better sales. Using agile and inclusive methods of design. Involving business and individual customers in our service design processes. Understand that disruption will happen and embracing it. Working out what the really big issues are for us. And at the moment it's broadband and it's network architecture. And working on those really big problems with others who face exactly the same problems. Because in doing that, we can work quickly through these big problems and get our new services out there. Working with the very, very best people. And what we found through our university program is that we can not only work with fantastic academics, but through their contacts, we can work with other businesses that are facing the same issues. So we can work in collaboration, but also work with some of the very, very best people. And designing services that are built for today, but fit for the future. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to take questions.